everyone! Chapter 8, Video 4, Power Eyes and Multiplying. This is Mrs. Osier.
And Miss Lahart.
And here we go.
Power Eye.
Power Eye.
It's a football term, maybe. I don't really know.
It's from a movie. We like it.
That's right. Maybe some of you football players will tell us if it's true or not. All right, so, ladies and gentlemen, there's a power cycle of I. Okay? We have I, we know, is the square root of -1. But I squared is going to be equivalent to -1. I cubed is negative I, and I to the fourth is positive 1. So you're basically going to have to know your power I cycle.
And if you notice, some of these are actually in the real dimension and some are in the imaginary or lateral dimension. And let's talk about why. So right now we are going through the why this happens. Wait to write it. Just watch and listen, and then we'll tell you what to make sure that you have written down.
Right. Okay? So I to the first is I. That makes sense.
Yes.
But I squared. Why is it equivalent to -1? Well,
let's break it down.
Break it down.
I is the square root of -1. So I times itself is the square root of -1 times the square root of -1, which is the square root of +1, which therefore is
-1.
Okay. Sorry, my brain just went on that.
Whenever you multiply a radical by itself, it's what's underneath the radical.
Boom. So that stays out.
Okay.
There we go.
I to the third power is equivalent to -1. But why? Well, if you break up I cubed to be I squared times I, we know that I squared is -1 from the last term, and a single I is a single I, so -I.
And I to the fourth is I squared times itself. -1 times -1 is, in fact, +1.
And that's the cycle of I. So, next screen is the screen that you should just write down, because really it's the power I formation. That's what you need to know.
You need to know these. Have to know. You need to know that I is I. I squared is -1. That's a big one, people. A big, big, big one.
I squared is -1.
I cubed is -I. And I to the fourth is 1.
Yep.
You are responsible for knowing these facts.
Yep. Okay? So, you are going to have to, when we do a cycle, okay, it's a cycle of 4 that repeats itself.
1,
so
2, 3, 4.
We're going to give you bigger powers of I, and you have to simplify them. So, if you take your exponent and divide by 4, you'll get the decimal approximation, which means you'll know where you are in your cycle of I. Okay? So, 4 quarters, 0.25 is 1 quarter, 0.5 is 2 quarters.
Boom, 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 boom,
yep. Boom, 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 boom. Okay? So here's where it actually comes into play. So say we ask you what's equivalent to I to the 234.
Well, I don't want to count all around and around and around, because I could go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11,
Some
12.
of you might do that.
Ooh, goodness. Okay, but what we can easily do is, because it's out of 4, 234 divided by 4 is 58.5. Now, when using the inspires, please remember the easiest way to get a decimal is to do 234 divided by 4 and then put a decimal point right next to the 4. When you hit enter, boom, decimal comes out.
So 0.5 means that you are at I squared, and I squared is equivalent to -1. So I to the 234 is equivalent to -1.
Boom, because it's a cycle, the power of I, people.
Okay, same thing. So I to the 123 divided by 4, you get 30.75. So 75 means you're at 3 quarters. So that's I to the third, which is equivalent to -1. So I to the 23rd, 123 is -I.
Okay, so 512 divided by 4 to figure out where we are is a nice pretty number. Nice pretty numbers mean that they fall in the fourth power. So I to the 0 is 1. So I to the 512th is 1.
Okay, 4 is a little bit different because there's a negative. So you still take 309 and divide by 4. You get 77.25.
Okay, so we're in the first power. Got it.
So that's equivalent to I. But what happens when you have a negative?
You put it underneath.
Right, so that would just be 1 over I.
So pretty.
And that's the power of I's.
Okay, next. Now we're going to simplify. So remember, we said that this is just like other math you've done, just we're adding a step, right? So 4 times -5 is -20. I times I is I squared. But wait, there's more.
Yep.
What's I squared?
I squared is -1.
There you go.
So -1 times -20 is +20. And then quantity -5I squared, so you square something, which means you write it twice. Do your numbers. -5 times -5 is +25. I times I is I squared. But I squared is equivalent to -1, so it's equivalent to -25.
Boom. Okay. Oh my goodness, there's 3 numbers, but it's okay. I times I would be I to the third, and 5 times 6 is 30, so we have 30 I to the third. And then I to the third on our power of I's is -I. Boom.
So there's the equivalent version.
So
And yes,
nice.
you have to simplify.
Absolutely you do.
Whew, 8. I got a couple. All right.
Goodness.
I think I'm going to do the first term first. So
Definitely.
negative 6 times 5 is negative 30. I times I is I squared. I'm going to simplify that, I think.
Yep.
Definitely. Because I squared is negative 1. So negative 30 times negative 1 is 30. So that cleans it up a bit.
And now we're left with 30 times the quantity 4 plus 8i. Well, I want to distribute that for sure.
All day long.
120 plus 240i. I is already at a power of I because I is I.
Aye, aye.
I. I was waiting for it.
All right. Ooh.
Okay, we can do this.
Mhm.
Whenever you have a binomial times another binomial, again, we always go back to the algebra, the original algebra. Binomial, you have to double distribute. 2 times 6,
Oop, yep.
2 times negative 8, 5i times 6, 5i times negative 8i. Gives you this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so 12, 16i, negative 16i, et cetera, You guys know how to do that part.
Mhm.
Okay, and it's just like having x's. Now that we've gotten this far, we got to clean it up. We're going to combine our like terms. And this 40i squared changed to a positive 40. Because remember, I squared is negative 1. A negative times a negative is a positive.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and we're going to combine the middle two i's and the 12 and the 40.
Yep.
So 12 and 40 make 52. Negative 69 and positive 30i make 14i.
Yep. And remember, complex numbers, the number goes first and the term with the I goes second.
Meaning do not write 14i plus 52.
Yes.
Don't do that.
Now, let's look at number 10.
Whoa.
If we're going to take it up a notch, people. I think you've done this before.
You can handle this.
Right. Do one, then do the other.
Focus on the first two, or if you think those two look easier, do those two. But let's just go in order, okay? So we're going to double distribute.
I did the first one. So negative 6 times 7, negative 6 times negative 6i, negative 2i times 7, negative 2i times negative 6i. So that's...
And we're just going to put this guy on hold for a little while.
Yep.
Okay, so we're going to figure this guy out.
Okay, there's that I squared again. Whenever you see an I squared, it's negative 1.
Boom.
And then we combine like terms, so that's what we're looking at.
So now I'm going to pop that guy into parentheses because
at
this
that.
is a binomial and multiply it by the other piece that's still waiting. Don't forget me, I'm over here.
So first, outside, inside, last, yields that beautifulness. Oh, I see an I squared again.
I squared is,
Negative 1.
boom. Combine your like terms, bam.
There you go.
Look at that.
That's it.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's it. We'll see you for the live portion in class. Have a great day.